Down the inside through
What
turn
a
30.
move! The Aston Martin driver is desperate to keep a hold of the position. Oh, how has he managed that as well?
Wow.
Will he go on the inside? Oh, he tried it. Oh, squidgy's
Ooh,
out.
big crash there. Turn 15, isn't it?
Oh, he's dropped. What a move for the SF.
Wow.
Jolly, world champion for the second time in a row.
Vidal is a four-time champion.
And Harvey is the F1XL Season 17 champion. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to F1XL. We're back in Division 1 this week for the Austrian Grand Prix around the Red Bull Ring. And, it's just one of those the shortest tracks pretty much on the circuit, and it's always bound for some action on it. That's the best way for me to describe it. A terrible way, but the best way. I'm joined by Ollie, none other than the incredible Ollie, for this week. And Ollie, well, back in Div 1, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, Div 1's been interesting all season, and at this circuit, especially, Gareth, you know how, as much as me, how good this circuit is. Plenty of overtaking opportunities, side-by-side action. It should be hopefully another entertaining race in Div 1, but hopefully the elbows don't come out too much in this race. But it can do us Austria, but safety cars are pro of the circuit, rain as well, so we could have all 4 or 5 options ticked for tonight's race.
Definitely, it's It's got its own microclimate. I know we speak about this every time we do an Austrian Grand Prix. It is got its own microclimate here in the Styrian Hills, so anything is possible. And it's quick. It's quick to come and quick to go as well. So it might only be rain for 4 or 5 laps, and in a 36 lap race, am I correct in saying? I believe, that could change anything through it all. I'm having a few issues with my stream, my Elgato card. It's just not picking up audio at the moment, so I've just turned it off for a little bit. I've got no information. We're about 8 minutes into 8 minutes left of quali, but I know from what I saw before, Swain and Harrison were practicing pretty much. They're doing a practice session through this area, through at the moment, just to get themselves equating to the track, I guess, through qualifying. It's the best way to describe it. But also, it means that they've set a lap time on the board. There's no pressure for them to do another lap time at the end of the race, really, is there?
No, they've got those quick lap times in. Swain's ahead by 2 or 3 tenths at the top of the board at the moment. Gareth and Harrison's not too far off either. There's 4 drivers within the 1.5.0 range, so pretty close at the top, which is great to see. And as you mentioned, one of the shorter circuits on the calendar, to be expected, really. So hopefully that bodes well for the race. But yeah, they get the lap times in early. They can relax, and this track is very congested during qualifying. So hopefully it gets a little bit. But hopefully, like I said, get the lap times in early. They can relax and look forward to the race then.
Well, let's go on board with Cleaver, as I think Cleaver's they're either going to start or finish a lap time. He's just finished a lap time, so it's a 1:05. Wow, look at that, 0.004 of a second quicker than Sinful Chris. And Sinful Chris putting a few laps in on his tyres. So I can imagine that Sinful Chris is going to be a little bit faster a bit later on. Yeah,
he should be. We know, Chris, how consistent he can be. Most drivers do like this circuit. It's quite flowing, it's undulating. So I hopefully see some quicker times. I think he might be on a lap, actually, Gareth, as he comes down towards turn 4. The second or third overtaking opportunity at this circuit. The Ferrari's not being too helpful, though, of Cleaver. I don't know whether he's also on a lap, but he did let him through there. So a slight distraction for Sinful Chris as he goes around on his second or third hot lap here, coming around the was that 6 and towards 7, and he's 4 seconds up. So obviously this is a banker lap maybe for the next one round, Gareth.
Yeah, they're both harvesting through this, and into the pits goes Cleaver. So Sinful Chris is going to go for it this lap around. Let's see what he can do. Is 4 minutes left of the session, and this is the beauty of this track. You can have a lap or two to in the bank, effectively, or extra in the car on fuel to really continue to go for laps, and it will get you higher up. I mean, you look at Gamerman Steph, who's thrown himself into P2. He's done 3 laps on those tyres. That will. Well, it won't come back to bite him unless he needs to set a soft in, later. Well, in the race itself, but I can't imagine anything other than a medium, hard run in this race, to be honest.
Yeah, no, exactly right. It's fairly straightforward when it comes to strategy, but as well as I do, at the circuit, safety cars are very prone, so that could go out the window at this race. And another thing, Gareth, you mentioned it. I think. Obviously, the pit lane. It's got a tricky entry to the pit lane. Plenty of drivers have made mistakes as it comes a downhill right-hander. They've gone in too quickly, hit the wall, and that's caused them to either be out of the race or maybe a front wing change. So you've got to be careful of that as they come round today when it comes to the race, especially when everything's on the line. But Chris comes around the final corner. Should be an improvement. Yes, it is a 1:05.009. So ridiculously close as we'd expect. In the 2 drivers in the 1:04s of Swain and Game Man Steph, so still time to find on the circuit with 2 minutes 40 left of the session.
Well, I know from a fact from WR Tier 1 crossplay on Friday that these guys, drivers can get up to the early stages of the 103s. So with it being preset, obviously that discounts a bit of that setup. For these guys here. They won't get into that sort of stages. But I could imagine a 1:04.5 is possible tonight. Swain, Harrison, probably the 2 that you're going to look out on for this. Are we going to see Sinful Chris go back into the pits? He's got enough time to pop into the pits and come out. Or is he going to... Is that him is that his qualifying done, do you reckon?
2 minutes left as he, oh god, almost bins it coming through the pits, a wheel on the grass there for the Aston Martin driver. But I mean, he's got enough time but Chris does usually retire early in qualifying sessions. So I mean, P3 second row of the grid, but there's plenty of quick drivers out on circuit at the moment. So that P3 might not be what we think it'll be at the end of this quali session, but I think it might be. Yeah, by the time he gets out, Gareth, that is game over. So Chris, there we go. As speak the devil, and he retires from the session.
So he's going to be happy there. The highest he will finish is P3. So he has got Harrison behind him, distant Bard as well, both quick drivers. Santiago can throw in a good lap as well. Let's see what happens though. Harrison then down into turn 1. A little bit later braking into that and using as much of the track as possible. He has invalidated. That could be problematic for Harrison.
Well, he just should have enough time, Gareth. If he can do almost a quali lap once again on this invalid lap, that will allow him to get through and just sneak in, hopefully, to get one final flying lap here in Austria. But turn 1 is notorious for warnings. As we saw, it was barely a wheel over that yellow piece of curbing, but that cost him.
I'm just trying to think. Obviously, with Harrison though, he's got to push, because I think we've lost the driver into the wall, maybe out the exit of turn 1. Harrison's got to push, but without ERS usage to get through the lap, it's going to be difficult. He will make it, but it's going to be difficult, and those tyres are going to be a little bit worse for wear. But let's see what Master Swain can do, or Swain nowadays, sorry, I should say, can do. He's going to be rushing down into turn 4 here, and this is another area where you can get it a bit wrong, and I think there was a little bit of lag in the game, and I thought Swain had lost the back end a little bit then, but it all looks fine. But yeah, there's a few points on this track where drivers can lose out.
Yeah, and we've seen it plenty of times. You take too much curb through here, put the power down too early there, and it will cost them. They've got to be careful on this circuit. And invalidations, we've seen plenty already in this session. But Swain comes around the final corner, dips a wheel on the grass. That might cost him. But he's slower on that lap than Gareth. Stays where he is.
Sanchez, sorry, not Sanchez. Game man Steph was right directly behind, and wasn't able to improve either. Harrison, purple in sector 2, but I didn't see if it was up on his lap time, so it might be a bit of a problem for Harrison as well. Let's see what he can do. Come around the final 2 corners now into turn 10, down the start finish straight goes a Red Bull driver. Is he going to claim pole? He is, by a small margin to Swain.
Yeah, what's that, 600s splitting them, as that's the end of quality with Harrison, the very final lap of this session. Great lap to Harrison. The pressure was on him, Gareth. He messed up the last time. You've done a 5th or 6th before then, and and that's why he's a champion for a good reason. That's why he's leading the standings at the moment. It shows how good he is and how well he's done the season already, and that it shows with that fantastic lap time, just pipping Master Swain for pole here in Austria.
Yeah, the 3 drivers in the top. Well, the top 3 drivers then all in the 104s. While everyone else at Fury agonisingly close in the Aston Martin. His teammates in for Chris in 5th. In 6th place is Distant Bard, with Santiago in 7th. 8th to Cleaver, 9th to James PT. CRT Map 45 in 10th, with Elder, Archie, Quickted and Rage outside. Well, the last 4 drivers in this grid. And yeah, interesting set of events really, I guess, right now. And as things stand, Ollie, obviously Harrison's in a great way right now. Let us have a look at the standings. I'm just going to have a look at the standings for Division 1, because I'm a little bit behind on this. Harrison is obviously leading the way by a fair margin, but Goddard Gaming is in P2. He's beating Game Man Steph at this present moment in time. There was no race for him at Hungary. Steph, that is, so no points scored for him. But Master Swain coming through Hungary, I think looking at it, Harrison and Swain, 1st and 2nd, both of them in the sprint and the feature race. So Swain's definitely come of a little bit of age right now in this championship. Obviously, it's a bit too little, too late, but he's got some pace about him.
Yeah, and Swain's always had pace, hasn't he? We've seen him throughout the years, throughout the seasons, showing his good performances, and on for a title a few times. And this year especially, you take away those DNFs, Gareth. Who knows where he'd be in the standings? And also, he's missed 3 races this season, while Harrison hasn't missed one, and it shows with what sort of lead he's got. So Swain should hopefully give him a good battle once again, like he saw in Hungary, and hopefully Steph, Bard, and the rest of the guys can give both of those guys a fight, and I could see it 4 or 5 different cars could win it tonight, Gareth.
Yeah, there's a fair few options, and obviously, it's looking rather grey out on track at the moment. That could indicate that we could have a little bit of rain a bit later on, or even in the middle of the race, which could affect people's strategies just slightly, and all their thought processes behind it. But I'm trying to have a look. Simple Chris, 7th last out in the feature race. Archie was 4th. No, I don't think I've seen Quick in the lobby tonight, so nothing for him. And Sketchy, can't remember. Matt 45 finished 5th, so there's a possibility for some really weird things happening tonight. Harrison's just got obviously that pressure on. He's got Swain and Steph behind him directly as well. 2 drivers that won't give him a moment's peace.
No, they won't, and especially on lap 1 here at Austria, it's such that first corner, it's not much of a run up to turn 1, but then after that, up towards turn 3, it can be manic. 3-4 cars go abreast coming up to that corner, so they've got to be careful. Don't want to damage your car on that first lap. So tentative, but also almost slightly aggressive at the same time, Gareth, to try and defend those positions. But I'm sure they'll be pushing him the whole race, and as much as I do, turn 3 and turn 4, great places to obviously gap this circuit. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're all defending for their lives at some point in this race.
I just realised I've been looking on my screens on the left-hand side, so it looks like I've just been completely ignoring the stream when I'm actually looking at the standings and how it all pans out at the moment. Obviously, we've spoken about Harrison and his, domination, I guess, is the best way to describe it. But it's his consistency of turning up to races that's a massive help for him as well. Not to take anything away from his good driving, but obviously if you turn up more, then your rivals around you are always going to pick up more points. But Goddard Gaming is one of those drivers that has barely not turned up, if that makes sense at all, but sticking with it. But I don't think he's here tonight, which means Gamer and Steph and I was going to say and Swain, but he's got a 40-point gap over Swain. Gamer and Steph he's got an option of reclaiming that second place away from Goddard Gaming tonight.
Yeah, he does, and obviously perfect opportunity. He's near the front of the grid. He's ready to we've seen how great Steph is as a racer, and obviously Goddard Gaming not showing up has opened that door for him. So if you can take that, and like I said, unfortunately for Steph, he's missed a few races as well. He's missed both the sprint races, so that's cost him those points. But when he does turn up, Steph is very quick, and he's had plenty of podiums. So we'll see whether he can match that again tonight, Gareth, and challenge for the win against the other drivers.
Right, we're very, very close to getting underway here in Austria. Final words for me. Who do you think is going to win this one?
Well, we've got formation up first, Gareth, so we've got a little bit of time to talk.
I'm giving you plenty of... I know I don't usually give you plenty of time for this, so I'm giving you plenty of time to have a think about how this one's going to go and who's going to win and what have you.
I think it's not to be a sort of boring choice, Gareth, but with how well Harrison has done this season, it's difficult not to predict him for the win tonight. It won't be easy, especially at this circuit, and with Swain, Steph, and then you've got both Aston Martins and Fury and stuff, of course, both in the mediums. So there'll be a challenge, a handful in the early stages of this race on the softer compound tyre. So for me, I think I will stick with Harrison for the win tonight. I think it's difficult not to pick him, really, but it won't be easy for him at all.
So time will definitely tell for Harrison. This man as well, we spoke about very much a Swain-Harrison battle at the beginning of the season for the title, but I think a few people forgot about Steph. Steph is an incredible driver, and I think he's got a chance, especially starting directly behind Harrison. I think we're going to see something a little bit different on there. Two drivers going for mediums, which is both the Aston Martins. That's going to be an interesting one. They've got to A, get through, and B, yeah, it's an interesting strategy call from both of them. Yeah, I keep on saying interesting, but yeah, odd one for the Aston Martins. I wouldn't have personally, if I was the team owner, done both the same strategy.
Yeah, hopefully they don't trip over each other and they can work together here, but we'll see how they negotiate it. And just waiting for one last car to line up. I think that is one of the what was that, fourth? It's few to line up. But Gareth, I'll let you take us away with the lights.
Then we're on 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights here in Austria, the Styrian Hills, and we're underway, and it looks like a pretty slow getaway for for Harrison, as Swain's already gone up the inside of him into turn 1. Fury and Simple Chris are battling away, and they both made it past Game Man Steph, but Game Man Steph's getting back past Fury. Fury's ghosted for some reason. Swain and Harrison, it's a drag race down into turn 3 here. Harrison's just about got it, and I think made the move stick, but just behind him, Swain's had a big snap of oversteer there, and there goes Simple Chris into P2. That's perfect for Simple Chris, but when you look at it from a Swain point of view, he's now under pressure from Game Man Steph.
Yeah, so trying to go around the outside as he comes through turn 4, but Swain squeezed him out there, and unfortunately for Steph, he's going with the pressure of Santiago directly behind him as they come through turn 6 for the first time. Steph, again, just bogged down on the start, Gareth, and he was down to 6th at one point, but luckily for him, obviously Fury ghosting has let him through and now fighting away, but he's got to be careful not to lose that place to Santiago, especially at the start of this race. But Simple Chris, Gareth, fantastic start, and up 3 places, utilising those tyres perfectly.
Perfect start for him, and Swain will be kicking himself a little bit for not being right in with Harrison. And well, here comes Distant Bard on Santiago, to be honest. It's a little bit off peak at the moment, and there we go. Fury really struggling is Fury, unfortunately for him. He's down 5 places, and he's on the mediums. He's going to be under pressure. Cleaver, I think, is going to attack Distant Bard as they head on down into turn 4. Simple Chris has got past, and I think that's a big braking error there from Distant Bard, and Cleaver's passed, and I wonder if James is going to go for the move. He doesn't, but Harrison now in P2.
Yeah, Simple Chris with the overspeed, Gareth. Was quickest in the first sector, using the slipstream to his advantage there. No DRS obviously on lap 2, but Chris crucially through Gareth. Now he needs to try and break that toe, get out of DRS range as quickly as he can, and run away with this potentially. But again, quickest in the middle sector as well for the Aston Martin. Chris, he likes his circuit, Gareth, and he's showing us his pace, and that's swaying through as well past Harrison.
Harrison's keeping it up the inside for the time being, but the racing line is definitely on Swain's side, and there he goes through. And Simple Chris, that's perfect for Simple Chris, to be honest. He's now past the second. Let's look at it from Steph's point of view as they head down into turn 1 for the 3rd time, and Harrison's going to definitely look back at trying to attack Swain. Game Man Steph was very close, but that's an uncharacteristic mistake from Harrison as they go through a turn 8, which allowed Swain through. Yeah,
very unusual for such almost a simple mistake from Harrison, Gareth, an unusual one if anything, and Harrison now gets back through using the DRS up towards turn 3, and now you need to sort of challenge and try and push to get back towards Simple Chris, but in these early stages, Gareth, Chris has the advantage.
Yeah, definitely. Those medium compound tyres working a treat, but Harrison's brought that back down for the DRS, I should say, and it could be a little bit easier for Harrison to defend from Swain at the moment. Swain's used a bit more ERS than Harrison at this track as well. You've got to save the ERS over anything else, really, when you're defending from. So maybe this is the time for Swain to really just sit back a little bit, just behind Santiago and Gamer and Steph, very close together, but Cleaver dropping away a little bit. And James has dropped down behind Fury as well.
Yeah, a few mistakes from some of the drivers, but obviously James still in the same position where he started. But obviously Fury trying to claw his way back up towards where he was earlier on in the race. It's embarrassing a little bit of pressure from said driver as they come up towards turn 3. No one making any moves. I think James is just defending from Archie in P9 and P10. But again, still very close in this midfield battle as expected at the circuit. But there we go. James is going to have to go around the outside. Fury here has come into turn 4 late in the break as possibly. There you go. And does he switch back on the Aston Martin? Can he get the traction? He's trying his best. The side-by-side has come through turn 5. Can James hanging around the outside of 6? He's going to try his best. There's just not the grip there. And the Aston Martin just about stays ahead for now, guys. But great racing between both these drivers.
Yeah, some cracking stuff there between the two of them. And it's just hopefully bodes well for the rest of this race. Lap 4 of 36, heading into lap 5. Simple Chris leads the way from Harrison, and Swain out just behind as well. Both Harrison and Swain and Game Man Steph losing position to Simple Chris off the start, but that is mainly down to his option of starting onto the medium compound tyres. Let's go back up to the leaders as I was staying on board to see if James could do anything. But here comes Harrison on the harder compound tyre, flying past Simple Chris. I'm not 100% sure if this is a wise thing for Harrison to do with everything that's going on.
Well, you could argue, Gareth, now he's got a buffer between himself and Swain. They're on their own strategy, while Chris obviously on a different strategy. But can Chris get back at Harrison here? Up the inside, late on the break, up the inside. Can you pull this move off Harrison? Being hung out to dry on the outside there, but they're still side by side as they come through turn 5 towards 6. Can Chris? He should have the better grip on the outside with the medium compound tyre. He just about does. They're still side by side through towards 7, and that is Chris around the outside. Another fantastic move around the outside, and that's Chris taking P1 back off Harrison. But watch out for Swin in the background, Gareth. He's sitting and waiting. Any mistake, he'll mop it all up.
That's what he's going to... Well, as I say, he's hoping for... He probably hopes for these two to have a little bit of an off-road experience so he could just sail on through. Game Man Steph and Santiago, again, very close in the background, but nothing doing at the moment. It is very much a DRS train that we've got going on. However, Cleaver is very, very close to being broken on this chain, and that would be perfect for these guys right now.
Yeah, the top 6, well, almost top 6, top 7 could break away here. No one in the top 5 making any moves here. Now that you said that gap has formed just for a second now. Archie gets past James in the background as well, but no one close enough at the moment in the top 5 to make any moves just yet. So see if whether James and Archie still side by side. Gareth has come into turn number 4 there. Can James hang it around the outside? Not got the grip on the outside. Through 4, and Archie stays, takes P at 9 off the Alfa Romeo there. But great racing across the board at the moment, Gareth. And we're only on lap 6. We're a fifth of the way through.
Game Man Steph's had a little bit of a wobble out the exit of turn 8, or through turn 8. Santiago's, I don't think he's just got enough pace to deal with it, and Steph then holding on, but a gap is forming between him and Swain. Swain getting very close to the back end of Harrison as well. Harrison getting very close to the back end of Simple Chris. These mediums will start to wear now. They're not going to be the lesser of the two tyres until probably lap 11, but the best part of that tyre is gone and done and dusted.
Yeah, exactly. And the problem for Chris, Gareth, is he's a lot more ERS usage than the other two. He's on, was that 19%? Well, Harrison has got 50-60% in his tank. So he is really pushing to try and keep the lead of this Grand Prix. But if he can keep going, like I said, until lap 11-ish, and then comes into the pits to change his tyres or maybe stay out a little bit longer, he's done well with where he is on circuit. So, we'll see whether he can continue that in this first stint of the race.
Something that Steph and Santiago have done very, very well at is ERS management. And maybe Steph used a tiny bit to get himself back into straight lining with Swain. But he is very much the best ERS user right now. He has got an awful lot in the bank if he wants to go for a couple of moves.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm sure he'll use it and utilise it later on in this race when he has the opportunity. But he's in a bit of a trend at the moment, so he doesn't need to use it as much as he needs to, really, because of the slipstream. But Harrison looking towards the lead of this Grand Prix, not close enough, maybe late on the brakes. So it's not too bad. In the background, that's Steph up the inside. You mentioned it. There we go. He goes for the move. A little bit of wheel banging between the McLaren and the Alfa. Oh, and he's round. He's in the wall, Gareth. I don't know whether that was contact or he spun his wheels up too quickly there, trying to accelerate out the corner. But that is Steph in the wall. No, I don't think there's some front wing damage to that car, and he's down to 11th place.
There's an awful lot of front wing damage to that car. There's no front wing at all. I mean, maybe there was a little bit of desync through that because he's definitely recorded the incident, but from my point of view, Swain's on pretty much on the curb, and he didn't have anywhere further to go for Steph. So I'd be interested to watch at most I think that's a racing incident, but I'd be interesting to watch what the on boards look like at the end of the race, because that's an interesting one. Steph now needs a safety car. Oh, Harrison off the track as well.
Yeah, Harrison losing the back end slightly and chose to go off the road, not spin on the inside there. Sway not close enough in the back, or neither is Santiago, but Chris did a great job defending these drivers. Hasn't really had a challenge in the last couple of laps from Harrison, but in the background, Swain's made a mistake as Swain's around, and now he's down to 10th place.
Yeah, not very consistent there from Swain. That's a little bit of a uncharacteristic mistake, and he's got a little bit of pressure on him now. And Cleaver, all of a sudden, is into the wall as well. There's a lot of incidents happening.
Yeah, again, didn't see what happened with Cleaver there, but we've got a safety car, Gareth, that's perfect for a few drivers. Archie's retired on the circuit as well.
It looks like he's well off the track. I think there was an incident maybe with Cleaver and Archie, and this has gone a little bit from bad to worse for some of these drivers. And safety car to calm things down maybe a little bit, because some of the drivers really struggled to keep things on. And not interested for those right now.
No, unfortunately, obviously Archie out of the race. Steph's got damage. Swain went around. Cleaver also with damage. So there's Rage gets a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But not ideal. But this is great for Chris though, Gareth. You know, he got into a set of hard tyres, and that'll get him to the end of the race.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. Simple Chris happy. Cleaver, everyone else is onto a set of mediums. These mediums will go to the end of the Grand Prix, but they have to be, well, the drivers will have to be very, very, well, there's a lot of tyre management happening.
Yeah, well, definitely. And luckily, obviously, it's a short circuit, but those tyres do take a beating coming through the middle sectors. Obviously, long, flat out corners. We're pushing the tyres to the limit, especially the last two corners as well, Gareth. So it's not fun for those tyres, and we'll see whether they do manage them, or they just go right, just come in right at the end, or hopefully maybe another safety car to end the race. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll see what Bard, there's a few mediums actually. Bard, Brickdead, Rage, Elder, Steph, and Cleaver all on his first set of mediums. But Chris, great position, Gareth. He's into 5th, but with everyone ahead of him needing to pit later on, he's in a perfect position.
Right, let's see what happens through all this. He's behind that. I'm looking at it. He's behind Santiago and Jane. I mean, Santiago looked very, very quick. He's going to be set a little bit of a clear air and possibly to attack Harrison as well. Steph's back into this race as well. That's something else to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly. And where is he? Down in 11th. Oh, pits up for. Oh, that's Rage in the pits. Yeah, Steph's back in this race now, Gareth. He's on a fresh mediums. Got a lot of work to do. That's the only problem for him. Got a lot of overtaking to do, and obviously the more overtaking is do, the more work the tyres have to do. So maybe his meters won't get the end, and then we could see some punctures later on in the race. So we'll see how they get about it, or how he gets about it later on in this race. But watch out for him later on in the race, especially if he does decide to stay out for the whole stint.
Right then, let's. Well, it's a little bit of a lull now. We'll get back racing very, very shortly. I think it'll take Matt 45 and Rage. So is that? Oh no, Matt 45. I thought Matt might have gone into the pits and then gone back in to swap onto the hards again. We haven't seen anyone do that, so this is going to be an interesting one. And yeah, time will definitely tell to see how it will all pan out. Just looking through it, and I mean, right now, where would you prefer to be? Which driver's position would you actually? The safety car's in. I suppose you've got a little bit of time to answer that question.
I'd say Chris, Gareth. You know, great position. Doesn't need to battle the cars ahead. As long as he stays with them, he's in a good place. Problem for him, got lots of medium runners behind him who will obviously be pushing in this early stint. So we'll see. Yeah, I would probably say Chris, best position, but we'll see how he gets on. But it will be Harrison to lead us away, Gareth, and he's gone early.
Yeah, that's the perfect way for Harrison to go. It had to be relatively early to make sure he caught Santiago out. He has caught Santiago out, but someone else that's been caught out is James. Swain is all over the back of him, trying to make amends for his error at turn 3. and unable to make the move. But he has... Oh, and again, the back end of Swain's McLaren really struggling tonight.
Yeah, and it's not going to help his chances. Also, the wheel spin going to wear those rear tyres out a little bit more than he wants to. But Chris decides to not make a move. A little bit of contact there as they come through turn 3, but nothing to it really. There's a few moves in the background. Someone's around, it looks like. I think it's Quickton who's made a mistake. But Steph already up to 8th, Gareth.
Yeah, Steph's doing everything he can. But obviously, he's gone worn tyres. And maybe this is an opportunity, though, for Steph. He knows, Simple Chris and Fury are the two drivers that probably won't have to pit again. But maybe I can't. Who was I talking? Steph can pit a little bit earlier and go on to another set of mediums if he's got that in his garage, and then effectively undercut the likes of Harrison, Swain, James, and Santiago. Yeah,
well, that is a good point, and he could do that later on in the race with Steph now in the pits once again. Yellow flag sector 3. I think Cleaver's gone around. Got moves in the background. That's just the pit stops, but. Disenbarred trying to push Simple Chris here, obviously trying to utilise those tyres the best he can, but without DRS he can't get by at the moment. With Chris at a late lunge on Asa Swain, that's compromised the turn 3 completely, and he's now lost a place to Disenbarred.
Now, I didn't get a perfect angle on that. I probably should have moved on board with Simple Chris, but that seemed like a bit of a late lunge from Simple Chris. Is that an act of desperation, did you think?
I think it was more, he didn't realise, I think he was umming and ahhing at the move and wasn't concentrating on his braking, Gareth, and had no option but to stand up the inside, not to have contact with Swain there. So unfortunately he almost jumped the curb, Gareth, again unintentional from Chris, but now he's lost a place to Disenbarred, who is now challenging Swain for 4th and 5th. But Chris needs to get back into the groove of things, Gareth, otherwise the guys ahead will run away with it.
Yeah, that's not what he wanted to do, and James obviously losing out to Santiago with that 1.5 seconds. That's a little bit of a margin, really, for the Alfa Romeo driver, isn't it? This is going to be a bit of a mission for the likes of Swain, Disenbarred, and Simple Chris and Fury to get that gap back down.
It will be, yeah. It's not helpful for them, but in the background, Rage is up the inside of Fury there. A little bit of contact as they come through turn 3, but the medium run up the inside using the DRS to his full advantage. And now he's through up to up into turn 4, up to 7th as they go through towards turn 4. Obviously, all this battling, and obviously James is on worn hard tyres. That gap is forming, and is not helping at all. Swain needs to get past him ASAP, otherwise the top 2 will run away with it.
I think possibly that is going to be the case anyway. And lap 14 of 36, just over a third of this race. I just proceeded coughing there. I do apologise. Disenbarred trying to find a way through Swain. Maybe this is what Swain needs. Maybe he needs Disenbarred to go through to then follow Disenbarred through James. I'm not 100% sure, but these top 4 yet to pit in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, they are, but Swain might lose a place to five. Swain's had an awful exit out of that corner. They're going to be 3 abreast in the braking zone. No, they're not, luckily. Swain's had to go a little bit wider through there, and he's been pushed off by James. He had nowhere else to go, but luckily, somehow still has enough speed to go through. But in the background, watch out for Rage in all this, guys. The Red Bull around the outside, down towards turn 4. Can he get... Oh, my word, he almost loses it all there. He had no option but to dive it up the inside of Swain. I don't think Swain was expecting the Red Bull. Almost takes out... But again, I don't think any intention of doing that there. He had no option but to dive it up the inside, guys. Luckily, all 3 cars still rolling around with no damage. But God, foot in mouth there, foot in the moment there, guys. My word.
That is nuts. Definitely heart in mouth moment. That is not... Oh, I really don't understand. He's made... He's made it look like a good move, but he could have so easily cost 3 drivers there. That is a very, very difficult move. Enough of that. Disenbarred trying to get past Swain. On this occasion, down the back, the second straight, through turn 2. Swain is going to have a little bit of difficulty defending this one as they come through into turn 3. Swain's got the inside line, and he's been given the room by Swain as Disenbarred. Very good racing between them, especially after what we've just seen.
Yeah, and in the foreground as well, Rage and James are side by side coming into turn 4. James loses the back end slightly coming through that corner, but surely Rage around the outside with the extra grip should make that move stick, and he's up into P3. It's Red Bull 2-3 now, but it's all happening on lap 15 and 16, Gareth. Everything under the sun with all these overtakes is happening, and James on those worn hard tyres is a bit of a rolling roadblock at the moment, but is fighting for the places. As he's got the right to do it, Gareth.
He definitely does, and I think maybe the likes of James and Swain will now look at waiting for another safety car, maybe seeing an Ocon today. Hopefully not the pit lane issues through all that as well. But Distant Bard finding a way past Swain, and now trying to find a way past James. He's got the overall pace at the moment. Simple Chris picking up a penalty, struggling behind Swain at the moment.
Yeah, he is. I think Swain again on worn hard tyres. These guys, obviously there's plenty of wear still in those tyres, but Chris on fresh rubber with regard to his medium should get through these guys fairly straightforward, really. But it's easier said than done, isn't it? With when it comes to racing, especially at this circuit. But Swain is no easy customer. But Swain has made a few mistakes. He's struggling with traction, especially at turn 3. So if Chris can get him there, that'd be the perfect place to get through and challenge drivers ahead.
Definitely, and that's something that I've definitely noticed about this game in general over the others, is the presets have been pretty terrible. They haven't been as smooth as some of the other games. So while people will try their best to be set everything down properly and be as quick as possible, sometimes it doesn't always work, and it looks like it does seem like that this track is one of those where it struggles. But here goes Distant Pards. He's finally past James, and now he can try and catch Rage ahead of him. But Game Man Steph picking up a 3-second time penalty, down in 12th place. He's dropped off a little bit as well. What's happened to Steph?
His second pit stop guy, I think he had damage at one point, but Swain trying to pull, oh my word! The elbows were out there from James, and there's a wheel on the grass for Swain. Luckily, both drivers still pointing in a straight line, but again, a moment of, I'm sure Swain's trousers maybe a little bit brown after that, when both his right wheels were on the grass, but elbows his way through and up to P5 now. James struggling on these hard tyres, but Swain now up to P5, trying to close down the drivers ahead, and now finally James has got some clean air, and there's a big old gap between himself and Elder, 3.5 seconds, putting 6th and 7th.
This is going to be an interesting one. I'm not sure about Swain's trousers being brown. Mine were, especially after what we saw with Rage a bit earlier on. This is going to be an absolute... it's going to be an interesting finish to the Grand Prix, as we're now halfway through this race.
Yeah, so for Chris is down to 10th. What happened to Chris?
He's in the pits.
Yeah, I didn't see what happened there at all. Chris, he's not pitted. Yeah, I'm a bit perplexed. What's happened there?
Maybe he had an instant.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on circuit. I didn't.
Yeah.
Right, obviously something's happened for one reason or another. But yeah, the man who was on potentially for a win here is now down to the 10th place.
Yeah, maybe an incident with his teammate, and that's the golden rule of F1: don't have an incident with your teammate, because Fury's now in the pits and out as well. Harrison has finally pitted from the lead of this Grand Prix. Into the pits he comes, and where is he going to come out in all this? It's lap 20. He's now down to 9th place, behind Quickted, Elder, who are fighting away here as well, with Map 45 just behind. These guys, net lead of the... No, they're not the net lead of the race. The net lead of the race is Rage.
Yes, it would be. Yeah, but likely he might have to come in at the end. But I mean, Gareth, a great dueling between Quickted, Matt, and Elder here, side by side action. As Matt 45 on the outside of Mercedes, and he gets through into 7th as a Quickted getting involved with the battle. But Chris still ahead of Harrison, Gareth, but obviously worn hard tyres against fresh mediums might be a bit of a struggle at the start of this stint. If you keep behind, that would be great, but it's going to be, again, easier said than done, especially with Harrison.
Yeah, Harrison's got a long way to fight, but if anyone, a lot of the drivers ahead of him are going to pit again, aren't they? So he doesn't have to make too many moves. Swain and James into the pits as well. They're going to go on to set of mediums, and Santiago holding it out for the time being.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll be coming in the pits shortly. Obviously, he's the only Haas car on circuit, so there's no problems crossing with his team, well, his non-existent teammate, so he should be fine with that. But again, feels pretty good on the side. The problem for Santiago, though, Gareth, he's got 2 penalties hanging over his head, so it's going to cost him big time, especially at this circuit with how close the other drivers are. So Santiago, I can't imagine unless he gets a great pit stop and legs it in the Leaders Grand Prix. I think it's not going to be a first place for him, unfortunately.
Struggle for him. Map 45 trying to get through. Quick to do, currently battling for P4 out of all this. Swain is 6.9 seconds behind Harrison. That's how much it's cost him with all the battling, etc., which is not ideal for him or James, who is side by side with him as they head through turn 3 and turn 4. So that's an interesting one. These two not giving up yet.
No, Rage in the pit as well, guys. So that was mediums not getting to the end for him, and he'll come out just behind Harrison, but whether he gets ahead of Swain, that'll be an important thing. But James fighting away at Swain, and in fairness, Swain gave him room on the inside there, but can't get through at the moment.
Harrison, fastest man on the track, and that's to be expected with everything going on. Swain trying to pull away from James as they come down the start-finish straight. Cleaver has left the session. Where was that? Is that in the pits, was it? Or
maybe, I don't know. I presume so.
Guessing so. Cleaver's out of the race anyway. James trying again on Swain into turn 3, not happening on this occasion. They've got Gamer and Steph though for company just behind, but James surely is going to have the run down as they head through the back straight. Looking at it from his point of view, I think he is well past that McLaren into turn 4.
Yeah, great move from James there. It's fairly simple. Had the overspeed and flew past him and was able to break on the racing line, and that's him up into P9. Now need to close that 2.1 second gap to Subaru. Santiago finally pits here. It'll be really interesting as James actually quickest in the middle sector as well. So don't count out James in all this. Obviously a lot of work to go to try and catch up, but Santiago in the pits, where will he come out in all this battling?
It's going to be an interesting one. He was in with Harrison, but I'm sure he's going to be further behind. I think his Rage is going to be the one to watch for. There goes Rage. There's Santiago. Santiago behind the Red Bull. So it's a Red Bull 4th and 5th at the moment. Sinful Chris just ahead of Harrison. This is gone from this is a race to forget for Sinful Chris. But in the background, we see James and Swain battling away. Swain decides to stay behind the Alfa Romeo for this occasion. See what he can do. Again, his exit out of turn 3, unfortunately for Swain, hasn't been the best.
No, he's really struggling with the traction on the rear end, and that's costing him a heap of time. Whether he can take a different angle coming through turn 3, that'll help him. But the problem is he's got Steph company now. He's got to be so careful with the traction. If he's going to be too careful, then he'll have trouble defending that place. So keep an eye on that battle. But again, it is Harrison who's very close to the back of Simple Chris here on those fresh mediums, and this could be an inevitable for Harrison to get through.
Yeah, map 45 looks like he's going to be able to get a decent result out of this as well. Could be a podium on the cards as we look at Rage as he's just set the fastest lap of the race. Here comes Harrison trying to dink his way through Sinful Chris. I think the move is done this time though. Harrison passed Sinful Chris as they head into turn 3. But Harrison, and there's contact. Whoa. Sinful Chris has tagged Harrison.
Yeah, and that's Rage through as well and all that. Again, unintentional from Chris, and it wouldn't surprise me if Chris lets him back through. But problem for always more contact between Santiago and Harrison as he comes through turn 4 there. Santiago's trying to go up the inside. It's got very manic all of a sudden, Gareth, and I think there might be a few stewards' inquiries in all this, but Chris looks to be letting him through. That is Rage off the circuit in the barriers as well on the exit of turn 6.
It's mental. We're not having a moment's peace right now. It is going to be interesting as Sinful Chris does let Harrison through. I think he lets Santiago through as well. Sinful Chris realising, I think, mistake. I don't think that's going to be... saving him from a steward's inquiry. But there goes Rage. He's, I suppose you could say, rage quit. But he's quit the race. He's now back down into 10th place, which is a shame to see after a very chaotic race from him. But Simple Chris behind Harrison. He's just got to sit in with the guys here now. But Distant Bard, all of a sudden, is right up there.
Yeah, 1.9 seconds, 1.8. It's coming down quite quickly for Bard, but problem is, if you can't get past Chris quickly, this could be a problem for him if Chris is a bit of a blockage in the pipeline, and Harrison and Santiago run away with it, challenging sort of Matt 45 for the lead here. So we'll see if he can get by. Chris is not an easy customer to get by, as we've seen in this race, but Chris, plenty of life still left in those tyres, Gareth. So stay with these guys. Maybe right at the end he could get back through. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, let's see how it will all pan out. Swain, James, this seems like the close. I don't want to say the closest battle, but the battle we're going to have right now, because both of them pushing each other to the limits.
Yes, they are, and that's the best bit. You know, if you get someone who's pushing you neck and neck, that just helps you both. As long as you work together, though, and not if they're all trying to overtake each other all the time, that's not helpful. So we'll see whether they can work together in all this to try and catch up with the guys ahead.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. James, 2 seconds away from Distant Bard, while Swain is right up there with him. DRS is wide open again. Gamerman Steph struggling. He couldn't take advantage of the moment where Swain had a little bit of moment of, don't want to say madness, but a moment of... Anyway.
No penalty for Santiago, Gareth. That's 9 seconds now. That's his race almost over and done with. In all that, and someone's made a mistake. That's Chris in the grass, Gareth, on the exit of turn 7, turn 8. So not sure what's happened there, but that's him around, and that's almost his race over and done with. He's coming into the pits actually, so I'm not sure what happened there, but. Just a note on the rage incident, but up at the head just quickly. Santiago gets by Matt 45. Matt 45 doesn't try and defend that. I think he knows it's inevitable that he's going to lose that place to the Haas car. But rage just with Chris going off the circuit on the last the exit of turn 6. He just tried to get out the way and unfortunately lost the back end and was in the wall. So no intention, just a racing incident there.
Interesting. Unfortunate for Rage. Not with the race he could have had, let's say. His AI though is up into P9, so maybe he should get himself back into the lobby and finish this one off. Sinful Chris down into 12th place. I mean, he wanted us to come back into the comms box, and all of a sudden the curse of Simple Chris has come back. Matt 45 is being hounded by Harrison, and his internet connection is possibly giving Harrison a little bit of a heart attack. That's not helpful at all. He needs to get the cleanest move possible done here, and he should be able to get him coming up the hill now. Goes to the inside. Matt 45 doesn't defend again. I think he knows what's about to happen, but again, he's not through. Oh, a bit of push there from Harrison. He's still on the inside here. Go down towards turn 4, but that is the move over and done with for Harrison. Fairly straightforward, Gareth, and that's him up into P2, and well, technically net P1 with the amount of penalties our race leader has. Yeah, and that's going to be another podium for Distant Bard as well. It's someone we've had mentions of him tonight, but nothing major. But he's gone about his business pretty nice, simply, and he's going to get himself onto the podium. So it's Matt 45 as things stand. Harrison, though, picking up a 3-second time penalty. Matt 45 currently is in the net lead of this Grand Prix. Yeah, well, Gareth, he needs to stay with him for the next 8 laps, and I think that might be too much of an ask with how worn his tyres are. But you never know. This is a short circuit, so we'll see what happens, and it could be a dead podium for James. He could be on the podium tonight. We'll have to wait and see. I'm trying to look at James in the standings, but I can't see him there anyway. But Swain's still hounding him as well. Swain's got a penalty as well, unfortunately, but Swain just can't get by on this occasion. But don't discount Bard and James here and all this. It could
could be something a little bit different for our podium this week, Gareth.
So for Chris, the fastest man on the track, let's have a look at Swain. I don't think... Yeah, he's not close enough on this occasion. But Swain, I think Swain's just saving his ERS a little bit. He's seeing the red light continually flash on the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo is harvesting an awful lot. The ERS is certainly against James, and Swain maybe is just waiting for the perfect opportunity, maybe even to get a full, not a full battery, but somewhere where he can push, and then once he's overtaken, he uses a battery to get away from James, because James is sitting on about 5-6%.
The problem he has, look, I think he's get by him. Oh, the back end squiggling on the edge of the final corner. If James can close that 1.6 second gap, he'll be within DRS range of Distant Bard then, and that will not be helpful whatsoever for Swain. Swain needs to get it past him sooner rather than later in all this, and it could be a move coming up towards turn 3. I think he's too far back actually, and maybe a move into 4.
Let's see what Swain can do. Sorry, as they round turn 3. The exit's a little, well, it's a little bit smoother this time for Swain, but again, he's not using, well, he is using a bit of overtake now just to keep up with James. Maybe the setup, maybe James has gone set up 4 and Swain's gone set up 3, something like that, which is costing Swain that little bit of momentum down that back straight.
Yeah, it could be. Swain has struggled with traction, so he could be just easing the throttle in, and that's costing him slightly. Just needs to be closer, Gareth, but unfortunately for him, James is really closing the gap down to Bard. It's now 1.3. It was 1.2 early on the lap, so Bard losing a little bit of time. He's stuck behind map 45 now, which is not helpful for him. And map 45, I think, might be outside that 3-second window now to Harrison. So Bard needs to get by map 45 quickly, otherwise you have James and Swain for company.
Yeah, I think map 45 has a huge part to play in this Grand Prix, as there goes Distant Bard having a look at map 45 as they come down this second straight through turn 2, which is not really a turn at all. I haven't had my rant about that corner yet. Up the inside goes Distant Bard, and he's going to collect the DRS as well, because he timed the overtake absolutely perfectly, and he's going to run away from map 45 a little bit there. James is going to have, well, James and Swain, I think this is Swain's time to strike James, is in the battle with map 45.
Oh, he loses the back end, and James is out of this Grand Prix, Gareth, and that could be a late safety car in this race. Yes, it is. James loses the back end, put the power down too early. There's no contact with him and Swain. Swain was too far. Well, Swain was 3 or 4 tenths back, but that is unfortunately James out of the Grand Prix. And after, there he goes. He's just put a swear word in the chat, and he's gutted after that, Gareth. And unfortunately, he's out of this race. And now, what happens now, guys? That's the real question. Does anyone pit? Santiago pits for a set of mediums. Harrison stays out.
Distant Bard and Swain stay out as well. That's an interesting one.
Yes, he has. I mean, those mediums are still fine. To run round in map 45, I think he's one out of all this, guys. Fresh off tyres for him. All the cars ahead of him, minus Bard, have got penalties. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen, Gareth.
I'm just thinking, this looks like a Bard win with a map 45 second place. That's what I'm just thinking right now.
Yeah.
Definitely one to keep an eye on. But yeah, Distant Bard, he must be pretty happy sat there in P2.
Yeah, I mean, this is virtually a race win for him. Obviously, if you could go stay with Harrison, on slightly fresher rubber, I don't think we'll see the difference between that. But again, we know how quick Harrison can be, and Bard's got Swain up his gearbox. He's got to be careful. Swain obviously will be pushing, trying to increase his chance to stay on the podium. So Bard's got, it's a difficult job for Bard, but we'll have to wait and see whether he can achieve his first win of the season.
Let's have a look. I'm right now, this is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. To be perfectly honest, this is a last few lap sprint, and everyone on soft. I feel for the guys. I mean, Santiago going on to a set of mediums was a bit of a weird decision for him. As Distant Bard, that was a bit of a glitch on my screen there. It looked like he went well off the track into the grass there. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. We should get racing underway again. Sinful Chris has an opportunity of getting a penalty. Rage needs to get himself back into the lobby because he's on for points.
Yeah, I know. It's a mistake from leaving, really. Like I said, good haul of points, and especially with Red Bull's chances in the standings as well. You know, every point counts, and unfortunately, I don't think he'll get the result. Obviously, with him not racing the latter part of this race, so yeah, not great at all.
So, across the sector marker, no sign of the safety car coming in this lap. So we've got another lap of the safety car, and then, of course, it's always late. And yeah, Distant Bard. Then, what would you do in Distant Bard's position?
Well, he knows the guy overhead's got a penalty, so glue himself to the back of that rear wing. He's giving him a load of space here, guys. There's almost 9/10 splitting them, so he's got to close that gap down a little bit before he strikes. But there he goes exactly the same time, and Bard not close enough, guys. 6/10. He needs to catch up quickly now.
Swain's lost it.
Ooh.
Swain has lost it. I think what is going on? There's a little bit of a game glitch there, I think. And Map 45 and Game Man Steph battling away. There goes Steph. Swain's directly behind this now. Swain's in a world of pain. Quicktid's going to get past. So let's go back a bit further up. But Distant Bard, crucially, is still within that second. There's no DRS yet, but he's crucially within that second. And Swain is having major issues. I wonder if he's got internet issues, which is why he had an issue at the end of that, or the beginning of the end of the race.
Yeah, maybe that's what's happened there, unfortunately for Swain. But in the background, pushing Distant Bard and all this fresh rubber for him, and he's trying to help himself out with the amount of penalties he's got. His car's bouncing around the place coming through the middle sector, but this dueling will not help Bard. But Santiago's up the inside coming into the final two corners. That's an audacious move to pull off there. The side by side into the final corner. Just about both make it through. Great racing. Both respectful racing, but Santiago goes through. Watch out for Steph as well. He swings it up the inside, late on the brakes, and Steph is up to P3 now. Bard's lost 2 places within, 200 metres there, Garen.
And yet somehow he could cross the line in 4th and still win this Grand Prix. The time's still within it. He just needs to stay with these guys and not let that flurry of inconsistency on that last few corners cost him the race win. He's still within a chance of winning it. He's got to stay in front of Map 45. He's got 1 lap where DRS will enable and will help him keep ahead of people like Map 45 and Quicktid. But he's dropping like a stone on the time against Harrison. Harrison's just bolted as best he can.
Yeah, well, at this rate, Gareth, Quicktid's also on the podium with how it's all going. But Map 45 and Quicktid, but we'll have to wait and see. Unfortunately for Map 45, he's got Quicktid right up his gearbox in all this as well. We'll get on to the final lap here, and Harrison may not hold well. He may not even get on the podium at this rate through the final corner that all these guys go. And now Santiago right in the gearbox of Harrison. This is not helping his chances at all either.
No, this is not helping Harrison. This definitely won't help Harrison with the way things are. And he will not want to see both Santiago and Gamerman Steph all over the back of him as they come up the hill into turn 3. Santiago pulls to the inside. Gamerman Steph is directly behind it. Steph's gone for a switchback, and somehow Santiago's gone spinning. Harrison's there. What is going? I don't know. And Map 45 is trying to make a move on Distant Bard for effectively the lead of this Grand Prix, and Quicktid's going through as well. Distant Bard is going to finish on the podium, I think, with how it stands, but I don't know what penalty system Steph is on.
Well, Steph's got, I think 3 seconds as well, so they all come down to how they manage the final 3 corners here, Gareth. It's coming down to the line.
Well, Game Man Steph has somehow got himself into P1 on the track after such a derelict first section. He's going to cross the line, and we will see how this one will pan out. It's not going to be, is it his teammate that takes away victory? It is. It's Map 45 from Gamerman Steph to Quicktid. That is definitely not the top 3 we expected at the beginning of this race.
Not at all, Gareth, and that is quite a phenomenal finish. And Matt 45 with the strategy of the gods there, and in Singapore all over again, Gareth, from last season, the season before. But my word, what a race that was. And yeah, I'm not sure what happened with the incident between Santiago, Steph, and Harrison at the end, but there might be a stewards inquiry with regard to that at the end there. But Matt 45 must be over the moon with that.
Yeah, he's got to be. That was such an interesting race to end. Swain's going to be absolutely fuming. Harrison's going to be fuming as well. That's the other thing, because there was moments when it was always going to be his race to win.
Yeah. I sort of lost words, Gareth, seeing two AlphaTauris and a Williams on the podium. That's quite a shocking result, really. But yeah, Matt 45 with Bill the Moon, great for both, obviously, AlphaTauri, both cars in the first and second, and then Quick-10 on the podium as well. So he'll be pretty happy with that. Obviously, back-to-back third places for Quick-10, so he'll be pleased with that consistency.
Yeah, nuts. Absolutely nuts stuff. So there's your standings then. It's Matt 45 from Steph and Quick-10 on the podium. Distant Bard somehow did not get on the podium. He finishes 4th. Harrison in 5th. 6th to Sinful Chris. 7th to Fury. 8th to Elder. 9th to Santiago. And 10th to Rage. But that might get taken away from him. Swain, James, Cleaver and Archie all did not finish this Grand Prix. Well, what... Jesus. It's another one of those where Matt 45, in the nicest possible way, has shithoused a race victory here tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he agrees as well, Gareth. He knows his pace and he knows where he's at. Obviously, he's not raced too much this season, really. So, I mean, he'll take it, won't he? Where is he in the standings? He didn't race the first 5 or 6 races, so and his best place is his 5th. So he knows where he's at. He doesn't play as much as he used to. So, you got to take it when you can.
Definitely. A great strategy as well. And maybe that is Matt's forte, maybe, is more strategy than his race pace and just being a sheer pain in the arse to the other drivers with his defensive ability. But, yeah, what a crazy race. We won't do podium interviews because... we'll just move on. But it was good being back in Div 1. There was some questionable moments, but overall it was a better week for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks have been a bit of a shunt fest with regard to Tier 1. So it's great to see some good racing again, Gareth, in Tier 1. Like I said, questionable moments, but that happens in every division, unfortunately, with some moments of maybe obviously all unintentional, but sometimes contact does happen. But again, that was a great race. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Great racing, great moves around the outside of a few of the drivers. So yeah, more of that, please. Next week at Silverstone. Fantastic.
Oh, nice race to come back to as well. Silverstone, Austria, 2 cracking tracks to commentate over. So that is us done and dusted. F1XL will be back on all the Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, whatever. Just check the socials, check Discord. That's where you get all the information. But for myself and Ollie, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.